getting diagnosed with breast cancer at 39 years old changed my whole path, and in very different ways, both by choice and by force. So my career is a background of working on Wall Street, working in financial services, and making the big money. My husband was a sergeant in the police department. We bought our house based on my salary alone. So I was big time traveling to Singapore for work, traveling to Iowa. I mean, who wants to go to Iowa? I did. Traveling the world and really kicking butt and taking names. And then out of nowhere, I met my husband, got married, and had kids. Still don't know how that happened. It was not in the plan. I did not ever anticipate doing this. But before I knew it, I was married and I had a daughter. I gave birth to her in 2007. By 2009, I opted out of the corporate workforce. So like many people who become moms, we get mommy tracked, or we wind up having to do all of the child rearing, all of the household tasks. And I wound up stepping down from my position in New York City and only teaching. So in 2003, I had started teaching college, and that's really my passion. I even started a doctorate when my daughter was like 6 months old, which to this day, I think I'm mentally like there's something wrong with me. Who starts a doctorate when you have a 6-month-old? But I really was teaching college, teaching at St. John's, Wagner College, Caldwell University, CSI, and teaching really was my passion. So I switched from working full-time in the city and making over 6 figures to working as an adjunct and making like, 2 figures. And it was tough, but it was what I loved to do, and it was my passion. By the time I had my son, I now had 2 kids at home, and balancing everything, I started running my own business. And my small business was called The Next Step. My original entrepreneurial thing started in like 98, and it was just a mess. I constantly would open up a business, think of an idea, and then realize it wasn't going anywhere. But when I started The Next Step in 2014, it opened up a huge market for me. I was doing career planning. I was doing how to be ready for college, how to be ready for your career, how to find a job. And basically, I started writing a blog, and from those blogs became books. And I wrote a book on how to be college ready, how to be career ready. And my small business was doing amazing. I was hired by New York City to train high school students who do not understand the level of learning that's not there today. Kids just don't know how to write a resume. They don't know how to go on an interview without wearing something inappropriate. They don't know how to tweet during the interview about how much it stinks. They don't know these common sense things that we knew instinctively as kids how to do and how not to do. So I was working for the city. I'm doing all this training. And then out of nowhere, I get offered a full-time position at a local school around the corner from my children's school to teach full-time with a base salary, really great, and a steady paycheck. And I jumped at it. And my husband was like, "You're a jerk. How could you stop your business? You're doing so great. Why are you doing this?" And I was like, "Dude, look at our budget. Like, we're broke. Like, this is a good idea. Let's do it." So I jumped into teaching, and that was September of 2016. November of 2016, I'm now a cancer patient. They were very supportive at first. They were very much like in my corner. They made sure I had days off. They made sure that I recovered from my surgery. I went back to work in January of 2017 with 1 boob and immediately started chemotherapy. Within a week after my first chemo, I started to go bald. So now I'm wearing a wig every day and I'm teaching 8th graders. Could you imagine teaching 8th graders and having 1 boob and being bald and even thinking about the words breast, regardless of how it has to do with cancer? It's nobody's dream. No one wants to do that, okay? So I was really struggling and I was doing the best I could, but the best I could wasn't good enough because the day after my last chemo, I was told that I no longer had a position, that the position was gone and that, they didn't want me back anymore. For me, knowing that I could do so much better, I taught college for 15 years. I could teach 8th graders with my eyes closed. Try doing it with 1 boob and no hair though, and let me know how that goes. It was a disaster and it was really hard. And, I forgave them for letting me go. I mean, I never sued them. My husband's still mad. My oncologist, every time I see her, is like, "Did you sue them yet?" And I'm like, no, I don't want to have to deal with that stress. It's not worth it. But in the end result was that my whole life working towards getting this teaching position for the last decade, because my daughter was 9 when I was diagnosed, my son was 6. So as soon as I had kids, my goal was to be a teacher, was to have their schedule, was to be able to do it all. and it was dashed from me. And the worst part for me was that I wasn't able to go in the next year and kick ass, because that's all I wanted to do. I just wanted to be able to say, I sucked last year, but this year I'm the best and this is what I could do. And that was taken away from me. And that took me a long time to get over. So I immediately went on like a short-term medical leave, which was like just based on my job it offered to me. It was very minimal. And then I went on unemployment. And by the time I was ready to get back to work after I did my radiation, I had started to share my story. And sharing my story was very hard for me. Someone who had written books, someone who had a blog, someone who used social media to be like, hey, New York City, hire me to train your students. They were like, okay, you're pretty cool, let's go. I get diagnosed with breast cancer, and it was like I lost my voice. It was like I had no ability to talk about what was happening to me because I was so freaking ashamed. I didn't want people to know I was sick. I didn't want to talk about being sick. I didn't want to be out there as cancer girl. I wanted to just be me. What brought my voice back was just recognizing myself in the mirror and saying, I don't care that I'm bald and I have one boob. I still have to talk. I have to get this out, or else it will kill me more than that malignancy would have. And I started a blog, but I started it anonymously at first because I was still ashamed. And then with that anonymous blog, people were finding me. They were finding that blog. I was having hundreds of people reading it, sending me messages. And I said, you know what? If these people could be out loud about what they are, I have to be. God gave me a gift. He gave me the gift of never knowing how to shut up, and it was time for me to use it. So I started putting my name out there, making videos, being live, being out there. I get 3,000 people a week on my blog reading about my story. I have found friendships. I have found mentors. I have found mentees. I have found my world of, all right, you know, maybe I'm not meant to be president of the United States, but you know what? I could tell my story and I can make people say, I'm not alone. And for that, I'm so grateful that that's something that I could do. And that's where I wound up building my nonprofit from. Because as I started to think about getting back to work in September 2017, I was like, this is easy. I'm an expert. I wrote books on this. I'm going to have a job in no time. And then I realized that I had no clue what to do. I didn't know what to say on an interview that didn't involve chemotherapy, blood counts, tumor types. I had no clue. And as I was sharing my story, people were like, me too. I lost my job. I got fired. I had to quit. I had to take time off. I don't know what to do. And that was like, well, you know, I don't know a better niche for me because this is what I do. And then I thought about it and I said, you know what? It's not just about work. It's about dignity. It's about personality. It's about respect. It's about understanding who we are as people and recognizing that once you've been through cancer, you don't want to work for a jerk anymore. You don't want to go to work every day and be stressed out. You want to be able to do something that you love and that brings you passion and balance. And that's basically where I came up with Balance After Cancer, because it's not just about the paycheck. It's about understanding who we are as people and what brings us joy. And it's about helping people do that. So it has been an amazing process. It feels like 20 years ago I was diagnosed. It was only 2. And in that time, I've built out free resources and training and books, and really just this way of saying, let's look at the world. Okay, you can't quit your job right now because you need your health insurance. But what can you do that brings you joy? What can you do on the weekends that maybe someday will be a business? And how can I help you do that? So those are the different pieces in which how I went from being an executive, an educator, an entrepreneur to being a nonprofit provider.